Ashley and I love each other. There is no beef, but she has no couth. I gotta throw a flag. My magical vagina that she told details about. She told Andy Cohen I have a hamster pussy on national TV. She ate it, so I guess she would know. She is just a hater. We love you, Wendy. Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I am your host, Dana, and today on our Monday Reality Roundup, we are talking about the Real Housewives of Potomac, the Real Housewives of Miami, the Valley/Pump Rules, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Southern Charm, and then I'm going to get into some news from Love is Blind, like some of the interviews from this past week, as well as recapping episodes 7 to 9. So let's get into it, you guys. Happy Monday. It is literally Monday right now, 7:40 in the morning. I'm recording this kind of late like I did last week. This is my second long weekend in a row. Last weekend, I took a 4-day weekend just to really recoup and recharge because work was just kicking my ass. And then today I'm off because it is Canadian Thanksgiving. I don't know why Canadians have a different Thanksgiving than in the US, but I will take the free day off. So I'm off today and I figured, all right, you know what? I'll get up super early. Not that early. I mean, I'm getting up early anyways to walk my dog. And apologies that my face is so red. I literally just got back in. But yeah, I figured I'll get up early today, record the episode bright and early. I feel like I'm more alert in the morning. Like I cannot record after work. I can't record at night. Like sometimes I'll take my notes at night for like the shows that I'm recapping, and then I'll record at like 6:30 or 7 the next morning because that's when I feel like most alert. So here I am today, most alert to be with you guys to talk about a whole host of topics. And we will start with the Real Housewives of Potomac. Now, as you guys know, Dr. Wendy Osefo and her husband, Happy Eddie, have recently been arrested for fraud. I went over all of that on Saturday. So go back and listen to my episode on Saturday. And just so you guys know, for those of you who are newer to the show, Monday episodes are the reality roundup, and those are on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. So go subscribe over there. All other episodes are audio only, and you can get them wherever you get your podcasts. Monday episodes too. So like all episodes are audio, and then Monday's episodes are video as well. So go to your Apple app or your podcast app, your Spotify app, and you can get all my other episodes. So last week we did Salt Lake City recap on Wednesday. On Saturday, I did a recap of The Real Housewives of Potomac, season 10, episode 1, plus a full breakdown of everything that we know about Dr. Wendy and Happy Eddie's arrest. And then on Sunday, I did a mini recap of The Real Housewives of OC and Real Housewives of Miami. So definitely go check those out. So there's no reason to get into all that Potomac news today, but there is just a little piece of news that has come out. So Katie Rost, who was one of the OGs from The Real Housewives of Potomac, she was in season 1 and then came back for like season 4 for like a little bit, I think. I think that was the season. She's a little cuckoo. I don't really know what the deal is with Katie Rost. She's a little off. I don't want to diagnose her. I don't really know what her deal is, but she's quirky. She's kind of quirky. So she did speak recently on the Wendy thing. Like she wrote like some comment on Instagram saying something like, I don't believe any of this. I'm going to go speak to the president for you, Wendy, which was weird. But now she's come out saying something about Ashley, like out of nowhere. So she wrote on, I don't know if this is like Instagram or Twitter that she wrote this, but she said, Ashley and I love each other. There is no beef, but she has no couth. I gotta throw a flag. My magical vagina that she told details about. She told Andy Cohen I have a hamster pussy on national TV. She ate it, so I guess she would know. She is just a hater. We love you, Wendy. This woman is so quirky. Is she saying that Ashley ate her out? I guess. Is that true? This is giving like Real Houses of Miami, Julia and Adriana. Like, what is going on here? I'm sure Ashley will flat out deny this, but this is just kind of crazy and way too early in the morning for this, Katie. Like, I just out of nowhere. And I think that that's sort of like Katie's MO. I think she just sort of gets in her head about things that aren't even like actually happening and then just comes out with it. I it wouldn't be crazy if her and Ashley had hooked up. I mean, it's not crazy. I just don't think Ashley would ever admit to that if it were true. But oh God, the Potomac ladies never cease to be messy. I swear. Like they are just so funny, so messy. And Ashley, even the other day, I mean, I said this in the Saturday episode, but like she did some performance on like Friday night and was like, yeah, we all knew about this with Wendy. This is just new to y'all. Like Zen Wen is in the pen. We're doing melodies, not felonies. Like, you ladies give me life. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Miami because Todd is suing Bravo. Oh, Todd Nepola, the ex-husband of Alexia Nepola, our beloved. You know, he gave her such a shitty season. I mean, this poor woman literally coming home to find her husband gone, her son there while the whole thing was going on. He never apologized to her son. He's put her through fucking hell. But the whole reason for all of this, my understanding, I guess, is that he hates the show. He hates the people. He hated being talked about. And that's why he didn't want to be with Alexia anymore. And, you know, their divorce is completely official. But TMZ came out with an article the other day that says the Real Housewives of Miami star Todd Nepola is taking Bravo and NBC Universal to court, claiming the network straight up lied about his finances to juice up storylines around his ex-wife Alexia Nepola for season 6 and 7. TMZ has obtained the lawsuit. Todd, who claims he's worth $100 million, is saying he's never bounced a check, never missed a payment, and never had any financial trouble. Meanwhile, the Real Housewives of Miami allegedly painted him as broke and struggling just to make Alexia's story more juicy for viewers. The suit calls out multiple episodes in which castmates Adriana Demora supposedly spread false claims, from saying Todd's business was tanking to suggesting he might have to break his lease and downgrade his apartment. Todd's lawyers say all of it was bogus and done knowingly by Bravo. Todd's side points out he even bought more than $115 million in real estate during filming, financed through legit bank loans. No shady business here. The lawsuit claims Bravo and NBC Universal knew or should have known these finance claims were false, and now Todd wants the court to set the record straight. This is ridiculous. Oh my God, this is so giving John Jansen. Nobody cares. And how exactly is Bravo involved here? If Adriana was using words that are coming out of her mouth, she's allowed to do so, right? That's what this show is about. All of these men end up getting so fucking butthurt about things that we are not even paying attention to. Like John Jansen, like this whole, like, you know, Shannon's lying about me saying that, like, she paid for everything in the relationship. Nobody's thinking about it. It's not affecting you in your life in any way. This is completely insane. So if Adriana and not Bravo, you don't have like Bravo producers literally, you know, doing confessionals saying like, Todd is broke and whatever. So what if some other lady was spreading like shit about you? That's what happens on all of these shows. We were just talking about Potomac and the shadiness. These shows are about shadiness. You are clearly a man who has a very tiny penis, and that's why you cannot stand people talking shit about you. But that's all it is, people talking shit about you. And I'm sorry, has anyone ever won against Bravo? No, right? Like, go ahead, sir. Sue Bravo. And if you were making 100 million at the time, great. Go off. For you to get so butthurt about what like a stupid reality TV show is saying about you when you know your true worth, then who cares? This is about like your reputation when you are literally sitting on a pile of $100 million. So why do you need everyone to believe that you have $100 million? Actually, you know, money. What is that saying? Like, money talks, wealth whispers. Stop screaming it from the rooftops. Stop making sure that everyone knows you have this much money, because quite frankly, you're going to end up being robbed, right? Like, you're not supposed to like talk about how much money you have constantly, because that's how people like sort of start to like seek you out and start to rob you. And Wendy, okay, if that is a real robbery. So, you know, it's just completely insane to me that these men get like so butthurt with their fucking egos that they just cannot fathom that people are talking about them, and they're willing to like bring the law into it and spend tons of money just to clear their name about something that no one was really thinking about to begin with. It's crazy to me. He's not going to win. Best of luck to you, Todd, in your future endeavors. Okay, so in the Real Housewives of Miami last week that we saw in the reunion, it was pretty fucking wild because Julia confessed that she had an affair with Adriana, and then Adriana told everybody that Julia had an affair with a Haitian mortician and a cop and all of this stuff. So, you know, Andy kind of kept asking Julia during the reunion, like, are you sure Martina knows about this? Is she okay with this? Well, now there's reports coming out that Martina is allegedly in contact with divorce lawyers after Julia's infidelity made public. The marriage is close to game, set, match for Martina. That's a good quote there. I mean, it's completely understandable. I'm sorry, but like, I understand that you guys have been in a bad place before, but that's no excuse for like constant rampant cheating. Like to me, Julia seems like the type of person that really craves attention and, like attention from another person, right? Not necessarily the opposite sex, but attention, like sexual attention from another person to be made to feel good. So when things are not going good in her life, it seems that she turns to people in like a sexual way to feel better about herself, which at the end of the day, you are in a monogamous relationship. It's really sad. I don't feel bad for Martina because Martina's like an asshole and we know this. She's like transphobic. But in the grander scheme of things, you are married. So if you're going to constantly cheat on your wife, and then she said that she didn't even tell Martina about it until like 6 to 8 months ago, even though this thing in the Hamptons with Adriana happened 4 years ago. So you're not being honest with your wife. Now you're like embarrassing her on public television. So I mean, I I expect them to get a divorce, and it makes complete sense. And I'm with Martina on that one. As much as I don't like Martina, I'm completely like with her on it. Okay, let's move on to the Valley/Pump rules. So Schwartz was on Lala's podcast, and he apparently is dating someone new. So that's good. I mean, we don't know much about her or anything about her, but it's new, and I think they're not really like putting like labels on it yet. I know this sounds so weird, but I kind of miss him with that last girl he was with, Sophia, who was so young, but like he described her as one of the great loves of his life. He said that on a podcast. And like, the whole thing with her was like, it wasn't like really cool for her to be known as Tom Schwartz's girlfriend. Like she had her own business, her own life and everything, but was always sort of like demoralized in that way. And maybe she was honestly like kind of embarrassed. I'm not really quite sure. We don't know a lot of details about their relationship, but they did say that they loved each other. They said that on the Viall Files. What's fascinating to me is that they were never in a formal relationship, yet she was one of the great loves of his life, which just shows that like modern dating today is just like so baffling to me. I really don't know. In the same episode, Lala had mentioned that she had reached out to Katie to apologize, who didn't respond. But the way she frames it is more so like, after doing a lot of work, she's realized that this is something that she wanted to do. But it sounded like it was not that long ago, like a year and a half, like after season 11. So, it's sort of like dead in the water by then. And I sort of don't blame Katie for not responding because at that point, it's been so long. You got so angry, Lala, for literally no reason at Katie. And it's great that you've sort of come to that place now. And I agree with her where she said something like, if you're going to send a text like that, you have to be okay with not getting a response if that's a possibility. And so she said that she was okay with that. And so, it's good for her that she's at peace with the fact that she's apologized and, she said her piece. She said what she's wanted to say. But yeah, that's a friendship that's never going to rekindle for sure. Something funny that came up in the news recently was Channing Tatum was on a Radio Andy with Andy Cohen. And do you guys remember like years and years and years ago, Jax Taylor claimed that he used to be roommates with Channing Tatum like years ago in New York in like model apartments and stuff. And no one believed him because it's Jax Taylor, right? So Channing Tatum was on Radio Andy and Andy asked him about it. Do you know a Jason Couchy, a Jax Taylor, a Tom Sandoval? And he's like, no, I've never lived with any of those people. So, I mean, are we surprised? Absolutely not. But I just thought it was really funny. Okay, so Brittany had a mommy makeover, and good for her. She's been wanting to do it for a while. She had a bunch of different procedures. So I'm going to play this clip, which gives a sense of everything that she got done. But before I do, I just want to mention, like, now that she's done this, like, again, good for her. I'm happy for her and everything. But she was mentioning, like, how awful people are in the comments that they've been about her body. And I was looking at the comments in this post about her mommy makeover and how happy she is with it, and seeing the comments that people were making still now that she's had this makeover, saying horrible things like, instead of like getting a makeover, you should be a mom, or like you still look fat, or like your boobs are disgusting. I'm just like, wow, she's right. Like she has been out there publicly saying for a while that people have been awful to her about her body, and she's right. Like, what is wrong with people? Why do you guys care about her body so much? Let her live. It's surprising that she doesn't have an eating disorder by now, quite frankly, because of the way that people are so toxic about her body. Okay, so here is the clip.
That I had done. So first off, I had abdominal reconstruction. After I had cruise, which by the way, I was humongous when I was pregnant. And I thank my body so much for giving me my beautiful son. I will never take anything for granted. I really just did this as a confidence thing for me because I'm starting to feel so much better after everything I've been through where I'm at. And I wanted to feel as good on the outside as I'm starting to feel on the inside. And I thought that was very important for my mental health. But after having cruise, I gained a lot of weight. So I had a lot of stretch marks, and I kind of had a shelf at the very bottom below my belly button that would not go away. You guys have seen me in my weight loss journey. I fluctuate so much. My weight goes up, my weight goes down. It goes all around. So even at my skinniest, whenever I was working with Jenny Craig, I still had the stretch marks. I still had the shelf. And I had something called diastasis recti, and that is abdominal separation. So it's a condition in which the large abdominal muscles separate, and mine did not go back together after having cruise. A lot of women have this after they have a baby, but some people are completely different, and you would never even know if they looked like they had a baby. For me, with my diastasis recti, my abs were separated. So at the top of my stomach, it was almost sticking out more than the bottom of my stomach because my abs were separated. So like the top of my stomach was almost sticking out as far as my boobs were. And I hated that. So what they did is they went in and they basically pulled all of my skin back from my stomach, and they completely put everything back in place. So they put my abs back in place. They put everything back in place like it was before, sewed all of that together. So that is extremely painful and a tough recovery, but I could already tell such a difference. Like I could look down and my stomach doesn't stick out like it used to. I would like touch the top of my stomach and it wasn't even fat. It felt like my abs were right there. And it's because I had that diastasis recti. And a lot of people on the internet are like, oh, you took the easy way out, blah, blah, blah. You could have worked out. You could have done this. Yes, whenever I work out and lose weight, I do look a lot smaller, but I still had diastasis recti. I still had stretch marks, and I still had that shelf that I could not get rid of no matter what I did. And that's another thing that led to my decision to get the full-on mommy makeover. So they did abdominal reconstruction. And then I did lipo around my back and around my sides and my stomach to help like shape and get my body back to the way it was looking pre-baby. Lipo is not easy. My back is sore as well as my front. So it's been difficult to sleep. And then I had a full tummy tuck. So they cut off a bunch of the skin. I got pictures of it and everything. It is crazy to see, but they took off a lot of the skin from underneath my belly button to right above like my pubic bone and all the way across. So it's crazy. Like all my stretch marks are gone and my stomach is completely flat. They moved my belly button up. So that's what I did for the tummy tuck. And then with my boobs, I got my implants taken out. I got a smaller size put in. They took out some of my breast tissue to help make it look smaller as well. And I got a lift. So my boobs are perky. They are beautiful. I am so, so, so happy.
Good for her. Like, I'm really excited for her. The results that she's like kind of showing online already are showing like amazing. So I totally understand that concept of not feeling comfortable in your own skin. And it was something that she actually said in this podcast episode where she was like, honestly, for me, I just wanted to be comfortable naked. And of course, she said it like that, naked, and I totally get that. It is so horrifying. Like, I've been there. I'll always be there where I'm just like, I'm never going to let anyone see me naked in the light. Right. And when you feel so uncomfortable in your own body, it's like so hard to be intimate with someone or to have a relationship with someone. So I'm happy that she was able to do this. But in that vein, she actually also mentioned that she is single. So we've seen her over the past few months dating this guy, Brandon Hanson, who we know has a few kids. But everyone said, like in the friend group, that he's like a really nice guy. He's going through a divorce or whatever. But she mentioned that, like, it was not as serious as like the internet made it seem. The internet like kind of blew it up right away before that they were really ready to make it like a serious thing. She really liked him. They really liked each other and had a lot of fun together, but he lives 3 hours away. And with him having all of these responsibilities with his 3 kids, it was just like sort of too much for them to kind of keep it going. So she is single right now and, good for her. But I think we are going to see him on The Valley season 3 because I think he filmed quite a few scenes. Like we saw him in a lot of the pictures for the things that they were filming. So that'll be interesting, even though it'll be like a year after they've broken up that'll finally air. Okay, so remember the lawsuit that Chef Penny had against Katie and Ariana for something about her? It was about she wanted to be like a partner in the business and she wanted to be reimbursed or something like that. But she also like trademarked the business. Well, apparently she has now dropped the lawsuit. Like, thank fucking God. So on October 2nd, Penny Davidi, who sued the pair in 2024 for breach of contract, informed the court that she was dismissing all claims, though the dismissal is conditional and subject to undisclosed terms. Davidi's decision comes after a trial date had been set for March 16th, 2026. In her 2024 lawsuit, Davidi claims she was hired in 2023 as chef and COO/director of culinary for the West Hollywood restaurant and was promised a 10% ownership stake and a monthly salary of $7,500 to $10,000. Wow. She allegedly She allegedly Madix and wait, what? She allegedly Madix and Maloney. She said, I guess, alleged. Sorry. There's like missing words here. So I guess it's supposed to say she allegedly said that Madix and Maloney failed to honor their agreement and sought to enforce the deal. Madix and Maloney denied all allegations and requested that the court dismiss the case. So this is interesting. I'm not sure exactly what it means when it says that the dismissal is conditional and subject to undisclosed terms. I don't know if that means that Katie and Ariana decided to pay her out in some sort of way. It sort of maybe seems in that regard, but I'm just glad that this whole thing is over. Like, literally, Ariana's been sued like left, right, and center. It's absolutely insane. It's sort of like what Lisa Barlow says. Like, once you become big, like people start coming for you. And, you know, this whole thing destroyed Katie and Ariana's relationship as well with Lisa Vanderpump because Lisa was the one that got Penny involved with them. And guys, something about her has been open for what, like over a year now, and Lisa Vanderpump has still not gone there. And it's down the street from her other restaurant. So this is all because of Penny. And, you know, I don't know. I think this woman is completely shady. Like, I completely liked her at the beginning, but then to be claiming that there was all of these promises that there was no documentation to prove, I mean, girl, like, why do you always have to be like coming after people? You were never going to be a third partner in this business. So I'm really glad that this whole thing is over so that Katie and Ariana can, you know, move on with their lives. All right, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And as you know, we basically have weekly updates when it comes to Aaron and Denise and their divorce. So recently the trial was happening, and I'm not sure how long the trial is going on for. I believe there was 3 days of trial last week. I'm not sure how many days will be this week, but last week, Aaron Phypers, his cousin testified. And basically his cousin, her name is Kathleen McAllister. She is supporting Denise's previous claims of abuse against Aaron. During a virtual court hearing on Monday, October the 6th, regarding Denise Richards' request to make a temporary restraining order against Aaron Phypers permanent amid their ongoing divorce, Kathleen McAllister testified that she witnessed Aaron Phypers, 53, give Denise Richards, 54, a black eye on January 17th, 2022. Boom. That is a fucking witness. That is an eyewitness, and that's a cousin of his. Okay. So she says, I saw Aaron hit Denise, and immediately she had a really bad black eye, Kathleen McAllister said. I'm literally in shock now to this day about it. Kathleen McAllister, who worked at Aaron Phypers' Malibu medical office as a holistic energy practitioner on and off from spring 2017 until May 2022, demonstrated in court how Aaron Phypers allegedly struck Denise with the palm of his hand. Denise was in shock. I was in shock, she said. During the testimony, Denise claimed that Phypers would often threaten to throw me through the window and off balconies of hotels and tearfully stated he almost killed me so many damn times. Earlier that day, Richards recounted what led to their split on July 4th when she asked Phypers, 53, to leave their shared townhouse. He got very angry at me and volatile. He got very close to me, Richards claimed. I had just recovered from a full facelift and I still had stitches behind my ears and I felt extremely vulnerable. Describing how their arguments would turn physical, she alleged he would get as close to a couple inches from my face. He would grab my arms and he would yell and call me names, such as cheating whore and cunt and lying bitch, she said. Richard said she was feeling extremely vulnerable and in pain and suggested that Phypers go stay at their old house where his family was living at the time. That night, she left their shared townhome and slept on their office sofa next door. Emotionally, it was hard for me to understand, she shared, especially with having what he had done for a living, working in the wellness space, that he would know how much this would affect me emotionally. And it just made me feel vulnerable. It made me feel scared. It made me feel sad. It made me feel intimidated by him. He's very big. I'm a lot smaller than him, she noted. The next day, on July 5th, Phypers and his father allegedly entered the room where she was sleeping and threatened to release naked photos found on her phone in April. Richards also claimed that Phypers struck her with the back of his left hand before leaving. I was wearing a baseball cap. My head moved. He flipped the hat off very aggressively, she testified. I still had stitches on one side of the ear, which caused some bleeding and so much pain because I had incisions on both sides. She claimed she told Phypers that he hurt her, but he allegedly denied it, saying he said, I didn't touch you, and he turned around and walked away with his dad. Richard said that he called Phypers' mother and began dialing 911, but Phypers allegedly threatened her, saying, something very dangerous is going to happen to you. You're going to disappear. In September, after Richards obtained a temporary restraining order against Phypers, another incident allegedly occurred at her townhouse when he returned to retrieve his laptop. She accused him of asking for her phone, which she hid in her shorts. He grabbed me by both arms and then pushed me down on the stairs. She allegedly claimed that Phypers then left with his laptop, his laptop, along with her purse and credit cards. Richards also described earlier incidents, including one night in April at a hotel in Chicago from Comic-Con, when she said Phypers confronted her about messages with another man. She claimed he began grabbing me, pushing me down, adding that his fingers were around my face, and she told him he was going to give me a bruise. She also alleged saying, "Please stop, you're hurting me." The following month, Richards said she was staying at a Los Angeles hotel after undergoing a 7-hour surgery on her breast and stomach. She claimed she had fallen asleep and given Phypers her laptop password to watch TV, but was awakened by him being very hostile and aggressive about her messages with another man. He sat me down on the toilet and I was shaking, holding my phone and laptop, Richards alleged. He said, "Give me your fucking phone." She claimed Phypers then hit me with his right hand, damaging the surgical drains from her recovery. In tears, Richards asked why he hit her, and he allegedly replied, "I didn't hit you. I need your fucking phone." I'm fucking psycho. This guy is like, I, you know, I feel so awful for her because this is not the first marriage that she's been through that has been physically and emotionally abusive. Um, but just because you've been through a situation like that before doesn't mean that you are less likely to enter it again. And I just, I just feel really sad for her. I really do. I hope that she has a lot of amazing support in place. While these are still allegations and while everything is still going on in court, I mean, I am Team Denise, obviously. What's crazy about this and what I've said about since the beginning is like Aaron has always come off as a douchebag, and it's not like even for a minute there's been anyone like in the zeitgeist who's been like Team Aaron, because like he always came off as like very shady, very creepy, very manipulative, very abusive. So it sort of tracks that he ended up becoming this way. And that's why he doesn't have anyone on his side, right? It's not like we met him in a different context where he was like Denise's amazing husband and he's so lovely. And how could she be accusing him of all of these horrible things? Like there isn't literally a single soul out there saying that, not even his fucking cousin, right? So I don't know. I hope she gets what she needs here. I hope she gets the permanent restraining order because this guy is extremely dangerous to her and her children. And I just hope she can get away from him as quickly as possible and be safe, because that's all we can hope for her is her safety. Okay, let's move on to Southern Charm. So we talked last week about how dear poor Kathryn Dennis was arrested and convicted for DUI charges from 2024 and that she's serving 30 days in jail. But she's now also being sued by the guy who I guess she hit. So Southern Charm alum Kathryn Dennis is being sued over the 2024 car accident that has landed her behind bars. Plaintiff Larry Patrick Griffin, who was behind the wheel of a 2012 Honda sedan when he crashed, sorry, you guys, Plaintiff Larry Patrick Griffin, who was behind the wheel of a 2012 Honda sedan when the crash occurred last year, alleged in his lawsuit that the Bravo alum's decision to have caused him bodily injury, pain, and suffering and mental anguish, as well as damage to his property. He claims in the court docs filed in South Carolina in August and obtained by Page Six that Dennis was driving while under the influence and sway of alcohol and or other controlled substances when she hit a 2017 Nissan that then in turn ended up hitting his car in the rear. Okay, so it was like 3 cars that hit each other. Griffin did not state the exact monetary amount for which he is suing, but asked the court for the just and proper relief for property damage, punitive damages, and the cost of this action. Dennis's insurance company, State Farm, is named as the co-defendant in the suit, but the carrier said in an answer to the complaint that it denies the allegations, partly for lack of information at this time. The reality star has not yet responded to the suit herself, and she could not immediately be reached. Yeah, because she's in jail. Dennis, 34, is currently serving a 30-day sentence at Berkeley County Jail following a ruling a judge made last Friday in connection to this case. She was convicted of driving under the influence. The report also noted that she was driving with an open container, which allegedly there were several mini bottles of Fireball, a cinnamon-flavored whiskey. According to a local ABC News outlet, Dennis denied consuming any alcohol, but later admitted at the detention center to drinking way earlier. Police footage from the arrest that was released shortly after she was taken into custody also showed the former TV personality arguing with law enforcement as they tried to conduct field sobriety tests. So, God, poor Kathryn. I mean, listen, these are her own doings. I just feel bad for Kathryn because I just feel like, we got to know her when she was so young. She was like 22 years old, dating like a 50-year-old was abusing alcohol and drugs at that time, was in such a like weird contentious relationship, got pregnant so young, was so alone. I just feel like she grew up in sort of like almost like a Lindsay Lohan kind of way where she just sort of got so lost and has not yet been able to get herself back on track. I hope that she does, like Lindsay Lohan has, for the sake of her children and everything, because it's just really so sad. We did get a Southern Charm trailer, which looks pretty good, and the season is coming out on November 19th, season 11, which is crazy. It really seems like all the women are into Craig, and like there's this new girl that's Sally's friend, but it seems like Sally and the new girl are into Craig, and there's like a lot of contention over that. But like, what I don't understand is like, that's not something we really heard about in real life. Like we saw Sally and Craig go to dinner like one time, like when they were both in New York, I think maybe for like Watch What Happens Live or something like that. But we know they never dated. We know nothing came of it. So to see that in the trailer, I was like, oh, that just seems very like storyline to me because that just, we would have heard about it if there was anything like actual going on in that regard. But yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing Craig being single for the first time in like years. That'll be kind of wild. But yeah, it's one of my favorite Bravo shows. I do always like the quote unquote like younger generation of shows like Vanderpump Rules, The Valley, Southern Charm, Summer House. So I'm excited for its return and I will for sure be covering it. Okay, let's move on to Love is Blind. So we had the second drop of episodes last week, episode 7 to 9, and then we had a few interviews from Madison, Casey, and Patrick on the Viall Files, plus some social media, back and forth. So let's get into the episodes, and I'll do it like I did last week, where basically I just talked about the couples and what was going on with them, and then there was like a bigger get together party at the end that I'm going to talk about like in general. So let's start with Madison and Joe. And these two are just like such a hot mess. I think that their main issue is that they are just so young. I think they're the youngest couple on this show, with him being 26, her being 27. And they get in this fight where she's upset about, she's still sort of upset that he was like inebriated at the pool party the day before, or it's the same night, I guess. And so she's like crying outside and he can hear her crying, but he's in bed and he's like, Madison, are you crying? What's wrong? And she's like, I can't hear you over the waves, Joe. Come and like be with me. And he's like, but I'm in bed. I'm in bed. And this whole interaction is just giving mid-20s, right? Because this fight is so stupid. She's feeling so embarrassed. He's like, why are you embarrassed? And this whole thing is really about nothing, because he was just like drunk, and she's upset that he wasn't giving her a lot of attention because he was drunk, but she's also sort of not recognizing that he was just drunk, right? That's what this whole situation was. And yes, I would be so upset if I was like off crying, my partner was just like listening to me and not coming to comfort me. So in that vein, I'm totally with her. But again, I feel like he was still waking up. Have you ever woken up? Right? I hate to be defending this guy at all. I do think he's a complete douchebag, but I do think some of their fights are a little bit her fault, because like they also get in this fight about how basically like he wants to sort of relish in like how scary this is with her. He wants to talk to her about like how crazy this experience is, how insecure he feels about it. And he wants to talk to her about it because she's the one person on the planet who gets it, because she's the one person who's in this experience with him. But on her end, she's taking it as him being like insecure about, feeling secure about the relationship, right? She wants him to feel like, yes, we're getting married. I'm into you. I love you. This is it. I feel completely happy about this and secure, which we as women, we of course want. But given the nature of this experiment, I feel like it's completely rational to have doubts and to feel insecure and all of these things. And he just wants to have those kinds of conversations with her. But she's taking it as him saying like, I'm not that into you, which is not what he's saying. I mean, he's not that into her, but regardless, it just sort of feels to me like, girl, like he just sort of needs someone to talk about how crazy this is with. That being said, I don't feel like he knew what he really signed up for, because he doesn't seem like he knows what he really signed up for. Like him saying things like, wait, the weddings are in 3 weeks. And, I'm just this is so crazy. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Right. And Madison continuing to say like, I know exactly what I signed up for. And it's like, yes. But at the end of the day, nobody really knows what they signed up for. This is going to be a very different experience for everyone. I still feel like, everyone on the internet is saying that he's not attracted to her, and that's just like so obvious. I just sort of get lost in the whole concept of how they were having really great sex. Because okay, like obviously I understand that men can have sex with anyone, and it was something that my mom used to always say with to me when I was younger, like men will have sex with literally anyone, it doesn't matter what you look like. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, listen, for them to be having like good sex, like I get that he can have sex with her, he has the capacity, and men will have sex with anyone that will give it to them. But I think, the fact that they're having really good sex and that they're being really intimate, I think she's taking as a sign that he's into her, which I would too, right? I mean, if the guy is, we've seen it in other Love is Blind or other reality dating shows where they don't get to meet right away, or we've seen before where people are like, I'm not ready yet, or even like KB and Edmond, they haven't had sex yet, right? Because she wants to wait. So if someone wanted to wait with me or was just sort of being weird, didn't want to kiss me, didn't want to hold my hand, didn't want to do any of that stuff, I would be like, oh, okay, are they not attracted to me? So I completely understand why she doesn't resonate with the fact that he's not attracted to her, because they are having great sex and they're being intimate. So in that vein, I completely understand why when she does end up finding this out, like from the internet and stuff, or speaking to him later on, she is put off by it. We do get to see a little bit of Joe's place, and it does look like an unlived-in showroom. And I think it's just so funny about single men. Like, of course, there's going to be like nothing in your fridge and all of that. That makes complete sense. You're literally leaving for several weeks, so you should be cleaning out your fridge. But there was like no throw pillows, no pictures, no. There was like one dish, one fork, like everything. It was very like single man, but at the same time, like also looked like no one lived there whatsoever. So I just thought that was funny. Okay, Anton and Ally. So they have this weird conversation in Mexico about like putting makeup on him. Like basically, I don't know why they put this scene in. I thought it was really weird because it was sort of just like a nothing throwaway scene where they're just literally talking about like, she's like, has anyone ever put makeup on you? And he's like, no. Do I look like the kind of guy that would wear makeup? And she's like, no. Has anyone ever like painted your nails? Like maybe I'll do that. And I don't know if they were trying to show him like how they're showing all of these couples this season is very sort of like disjointed and what's the word, like stunted and just sort of like not very woke and not of this time. Or was this maybe one of the most intense conversations they had, which would be like ridiculous? It would mean that they barely have any relationship at all if this is like one of the most intense relationships or one of the most intense conversations that they're having. I was just sort of curious about this conversation and why it happened, why it existed, because and why they put it on camera, because it just felt like nothing to me. And it felt like, wow, these two really have nothing to talk about, that they're just having to put this on screen because there is really just like nothing else. Now, something else interesting about them is that they both work nights. Now, one time in the morning, so we're seeing them in the morning when they both get home from work, he makes her breakfast, he makes her steak and eggs, and there's like no carbs whatsoever. It seems like very paleo, and mimosas. And so she talks about not being really used to that. She's like, usually I go to work and then I go straight to the gym and go straight to bed. But he's been like, going to work and then in the morning gets home and drinks a couple of beers. So she ends up talking about how she's going to be going back to school full time and she doesn't want to be like cooking and cleaning. And they also talk about having like a joint checking account and how she doesn't want that because she doesn't want him to know how much she spends on Botox. So there's definitely like a big disconnect here in terms of like how they live their lives. And then they also do this like get together with like a friend of his and the friend's girlfriend. And the friend and the girlfriend have only been together for 4 months. And she explains to Ally that like prior to them dating, Anton and the friend used to go to strip clubs all the time. They used to party all the time. And that's really like off-putting to her. So it's interesting because with Anton and Ally, we didn't get to know them very well because we only got to see them in the first episode because they got engaged so quickly, right? Like we saw them fall in love, get engaged, yada, 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 all in the first episode. So we're sort of like, who are they? Because we didn't really get to see them again until like more recently, until Mexico. And even there, we didn't really see much of them either. And then even in these interactions that they're having, like in the kitchen or in Mexico or in these get-togethers, I'm really feeling like this weird, awkward vibe where she's almost being like passive aggressive, not even passive aggressive, just like there's like this awkward laughter that they both do where they don't really know what to say to each other. So every time they say something like, oh, that sounds fun, like it just seems like they have nothing to say to each other and have nothing in common. And despite the fact that they both like worked at McDonald's and both like had to learn English at the age of 8, it doesn't really translate into like a long-term relationship, or not much of what I'm seeing, because I'm not really seeing them having like in-depth conversations. And then you see the disconnects between like how she wants to, I don't want to call it lazy, because like that's not what it is. She's going to go back to school full time. She doesn't want to cook and clean. She spends a lot of money on Botox. And he's starting to realize that maybe she's a little more high maintenance than he thought. And then she's starting to realize, oh, he's more of like a partier and a drinker than I thought. And that's not really what I was looking for in a partner. So I think we're going to have some issues here. And I actually think, despite the fact that this couple was sort of our like A1 day one couple because they got engaged in the first episode, I actually don't think they're going to make it long term. I don't think they have anything in common, quite frankly. All right, let's move on to Megan and Jordan, Sparkle Megan. So in Mexico with them, remember that in the first batch of episodes, Megan was really annoyed with him in Mexico and called him out because he was saying things like, "You're going to peg Anton," just making like these stupid jokes. So she talks to him in Mexico about being all jokey all the time with the guys, but she wants him to be there for her. And he tells the guys that he didn't like her calling her or him annoying, and he doesn't really like the clinginess. And so what we're seeing here is sort of like a disconnect where, she's sort of feeling like him being like all jokey and silly with the guys made her feel like he wasn't like spending time with her, right? Which is what a lot of the women ended up feeling like on that trip. They were like, why are the guys all hanging out together when they have just met us? They should be spending time with us. They've had, 10 days with those guys. So she was sort of feeling like maybe kind of left out, I feel like. And so the way she's trying to explain it is like, I just want you to be like with me. But then when he's explaining it to the guys, he's saying like, I don't like clinginess, and that's how he's taking it. I mean, we'll see. She doesn't really give me clingy vibes. She gives me really like independent vibes, but maybe it was just sort of like a misunderstanding of the situation because, again, I'm sure she's fine with you like hanging with the bros, but given that this is like your first time like being alone together, I guess she thought that you guys should be like spending that time together. And in terms of her calling him annoying and him not liking that, I mean, I understand why he doesn't like it. It was on national TV and it's a little bit embarrassing, of course. But I also like respect her for doing it because she's saying, like, this is something that I don't like. Now, I think they need to find maybe a better balance of how they're going to talk about things that they're upset about. Like maybe what would have worked better is if she had said this to him in private, right? Maybe he wouldn't have been so put off by it. Maybe it was more so that it was not just on national TV, but it was in front of like all his dudes, right? And so I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, of course, he didn't like that she said that, but I sort of don't fault her for doing it. And I think they just need to find a better way to like communicate that. Megan also ends up getting emotional like later on when they're talking about like meeting Luca and Skylar, which is Luca's mom. Jordan thinks everything's going to be fine, but I think that Megan is actually quite smart and has quite a lot of wherewithal. So I think it's very normal for her to sort of get emotional as this process progresses, especially given how quick it is, because she knows that she's going to have to establish a relationship with Luca and with Skylar. And she's never lived with a kid before. She's never been in a long-term relationship with someone who's had a kid before. So there's just so much that comes along with it. And so it's really normal for her to feel like emotional about it. And she needed that support from Jordan. And I really liked the way he did it. So she's like, I didn't know how to be there for him. Like my love language is gift giving. And Jordan explains his son, right? He's like, listen, Luca's not that kind of kid. Like Luca's the kind of kid that likes back rubs. He likes holding hands. He likes going for like walks, right? He's not the kind of kid where you need to buy him $100 Lego set. He's just not going to appreciate that much. He really appreciates experiences. And there is a way that he could have said this that could have been really condescending, where he was like, you don't need to spend money on my kid to make him love you. But that's not the way he did it at all. And that's not the way Megan took it at all. She really loved, if anything, the way that he described his son and what his son's needs were. And as much as this couple seems like so unbalanced in the sense that like prior to this, they were living two completely different lifestyles and they are really going to have to work hard to mesh their lives together. I just have such high hopes for them. I do. I feel like they're putting in the real work. So it's the 4th anniversary of Megan's father's death. And that's the day that Megan and her sister and mother all get together with Jordan and meet with him for the first time. And it ends up going really well. Her family is really cute. Her mom thinks that she herself is hilarious. The sister said that she had this dream about like her dad who had passed away, right? Saying something like, his son is just like me, his son is just like me. And she saw that as like such a sign. So just the way that her family was with him, how much they enjoyed him, how much they were just like, we love that you have a kid, right? That's not something that every family would necessarily be open to, but they were so open to it. So I really, really loved that. And then we also get a scene of Jordan and Megan going to see a $2 million house. And that you can see sort of plaguing him because, she says that she'll take care of it. She'll put in the 1.5 million that she'll get from her house in LA, and then they can split like a $500,000 mortgage. And he's just like, I don't want to feel like a mooch. I also like can't afford that. And I feel like this whole financial situation was going to be an issue with anyone she dated that doesn't make as much money as she does. And, it's not even just about a male female thing. Like, I could never let someone buy a house for me either. I'd also want to be splitting it, right? I wouldn't feel right about it. I would feel like I'm in somebody else's home. So I don't think it's really just like a gender rules thing. I think, a lot of people would feel this way about like taking a whole house from someone, right? And I think that whole aspect of their relationship is going to be the hardest thing for them to navigate. There is something about, I mean, even though it isn't a gender thing, it sort of is. It can be emasculating for men to feel like your woman is taking care of you. And he has mentioned that. He has mentioned like he's always been the provider. So it is sort of like different. And I think if anything, maybe therapy would be really helpful for them to sort of navigate that because I could see that issue becoming like their main issue in their relationship going forward when there hopefully has to be a way around it because if at their core they are so good together and really want to be together, hopefully the money issue can sort of like be therapized away in a sense. Okay, KB and Edmond. So we last saw them when he was like begging her to have sex with him and saying that because he's so nice, this is why this always happens to him. So they end up making up somehow. Katie says she's glad that the fight happened. I disagree, but all right. When they get to their new apartment, so basically they're all in like the same apartment building together. I think that's how it always happens. Edmund makes it his first, point of business to fit inside the kitchen cabinet. He is just like, this is so big. Look how I could fit in here. And it really just shows like how juvenile he is, right? Like his first thing he has to do is like kind of make a fort. And it's just like, I think the fact that KB is like a social worker or comes from that background, I think she sees him in this way of where she wants to like help him. But you can't be someone for your partner like that. You have to look at your partner as like an equal, not someone that you need to save or help or mother, right? I think it's so clear this isn't going to work out, but it just, I don't know, just you could see how much she's trying. You can see how much all of these women are trying, quite frankly. But it's just really it's interesting to see her sort of take on this mothering role. That being said, we do end up meeting Edmund's mom. She comes over for dinner. She's an interesting character. She's an oddball. She's like very possessive of her sons and talks about how she did so much work raising them when like, I mean, didn't he end up in foster care? So doesn't that mean like it wasn't that much of a situation where she was involved the entire time? Like, we don't know all of the details, but you can see that she very much wants to come off as like a very good mother. And then she also talks about how she has issues with like all of her other daughter-in-laws because when like she's talking shit to them, they go and like tell her sons or something like that. It just shows that like she's obviously the kind of person that has problems with people. And she, definitely in terms of the women that are with her son, she seems to like KB in this moment, but obviously that can change. This interaction I felt was sort of weird. I mean, it was really hard to gauge the mother or to get much about her. We know that she really loves Ghana and really wants, KB and Edmund to come there with her. But other than that, you can see that this would be a difficult family to sort of become a part of because you can see that the mom is sort of like a difficult person to be around. Okay, Nick and Annie. So they get in this really weird fight when she's super lit, literally just about how much he loves her versus she loves him. Again, a very juvenile, like stupid fight where he's like, yeah, like, we're still going through this process. We need more time. And she's like, I love you so much. I don't need any of that. And it's like, girl, it's been 5 minutes. It's okay. I hate him, right? Obviously, but it's okay if he needs a little bit more time here because it has been literally like 3 days for him to be absolutely positive that this is forever. Then she says to him, like, I want you to understand that I don't need you. Okay. I want you, but I don't need you. And the way she says it is like a threat, but I don't really know what she's trying to do. Basically, he's like, "Do you want me to sleep in another room?" She's like, "No, I still love you. You don't understand what I'm saying." And it's like, "Yeah, girl, because you keep like threatening him in some weird way." She's threatening him to know that she doesn't need him but wants him. I mean, it's wild. It's killing her that he needs more time. She says that she knows him so well, she loves him so much that she doesn't need any of that. And I'm starting to think that this girl is a bit off. I mean, listen, we already knew she was off in terms of like her beliefs and stuff, and we know that she's kind of like quirky. But the way that she is so for this man that she has only known for 3 days is just wild to me. The way she will say that, "I love you so much. I love you more than anything. I love everything about you." And it's like, that's not really possible, girl. And so I don't know why he's not creeped out by her yet, because I would be. I don't know. So then he takes her to his mountain house, which is, I guess, a place where I don't know if this is where he lives, but this is where like all of his like stuff is. He has like a virginity corner, which is like a video game corner. And she's like, "Wait, who made this? Like, who set up this corner?" And he's like, "I did." And she's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool. You could do anything." It's literally just like a big screen. It's like three screens put together. It's not anything really. And then it has like a bunch of his like, I don't know, awards and stuff for like marathons he's done. And she kind of gets upset because like she needs to be in the city for work, but it's clear that he loves this place. So she doesn't want to take that from him. And, they agree that this will be a place that they come to. They just wanted to make sure that this is something that she enjoyed, as opposed to, a place that she would never want to come to, because, this is still like a really important place for him. They also end up meeting his family, and I found this scene really interesting. So they really like her, they think she's great. But when she's talking to his family about like why she loves Nick and the things that they have in common, she's really just saying like a bunch of regular things. Like, we both have one brother, we both have a business, we both like dogs, or whatever it was. Just very trivial nonsense things. Like, just because you both have one brother doesn't mean that you're meant to be together. Like, as much as I believe that people should have things in common when they get married, like, of course, the things that you have in common aren't supposed to be like, we both like pizza. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be like the real intrinsic things, the same like morals, values, ethics, which I do believe they have, right? They do have the same fucked up morals and ethics. But the things that she's trying to connect with him on and be the same with him on are just like regular trivial things that don't really apply to being in a relationship. Now, these two, I do believe, will end up staying together because they are clearly like the exact same person. So then we have like the big get together, right? And this is where we get Ally telling the girls that, she doesn't really like that Anton drinks in the morning and went to strip clubs. And she's not sure if like that's the kind of person she wants to be with. And I think this is interesting because this is obviously not the kind of stuff that would have come out in the pods. This is the kind of stuff that is coming out as part of them being in a relationship and being together day to day. And, I kind of agree with her, right? Like, as much as he works at night, it is kind of weird that like every day he has to have a couple of beers, and that just like minutes ago he was like a strip club guy. I don't know about that. I mean, to each their own, but some girls are super against that. Some girls are so put off by the fact that a guy would ever go to a place like that and think that it says something about their character. And she's allowed to have that opinion. So that's just sort of where she stands right now. And then we get Patrick coming in, right? Remember Patrick? Patrick of Patrick and Casey and Patrick and Anna. So he shows up and he tells the guys what happened with Casey, right? So we saw that whole scene where she's like, "I do want to break up with you. I don't want to break up with you. I just don't want to go to Baja. I don't really know." And he tells them that he has not gotten to see Casey, that basically back in Denver, he tried to reach out and she kept saying, "I'm not ready to see you. It's only been like a second." She wouldn't even talk to him on the phone. She wouldn't even give him that. And then she says to him, "Well, why don't you tell the group that we've broken up for now?" And he was like, "So why do I have to like take that on?" And then he asked for the ring back. And she says, "Well, no, like I was hurt too in all of this, so I'm going to keep it." And he also mentions that like that whole crying scene that we saw was hours after the reveal. It wasn't even like the next day. It was just like hours later. Okay. So let's touch on that for a quick second. So I think it's wild of her to not have been honest with him at all. That's insane. I thought, or what it seemed, was that she was so worried about hurting his feelings, didn't want to do that on camera. Okay, fine. But then to not even give him that when you go back to Denver, like I get it's only been a minute, but like you're engaged. At this point in time, you guys are engaged, okay? You actually have to call off the engagement. So you do owe him the respect of like doing that and giving him a fucking phone call. It's insane to me. And then her saying that she wants to keep the ring. Okay, let's keep in mind that I do not believe that Patrick actually bought the ring, right? Like, I believe the show pays for the ring. I'm not sure, but like, let's make that assumption. She shouldn't be keeping the ring regardless. She should be giving it back to the show. And in what way were you so hurt? It just shows that the person that she's trying to purport herself to be, in that I'm not such a bad person. I realize how this is going to come off, that like it's going to come off looking like it's about his looks and it's not about that. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to hurt him. But all the actions that you've taken have continued to hurt him and have continued to make you look like a shitty person. You not even giving him the conversation was really douchey. You keeping the ring is really douchey. And you like not even giving him like, yeah, like the decency of an actual breakup conversation is just, you already know you're going to look so bad this season with how this all went down. Why are you taking steps to make it look completely worse? So just want to say that. So then Annie meets Brendan. And so remember, that was the guy that she was with prior to Nick. He was so into her. And so she feels like, you know what? She feels like she made the right decision because the energy that he's giving off at the get together, he's not giving off the energy of somebody who's like fighting for her. And so she knows like she made the right decision. And it's like, why would he be doing that? You're engaged, right? He shouldn't be like down on one knee in front of your fiance. So of course he's not giving off the energy that like you are his be all end all, because that would be inappropriate at this point in time. He does keep looking at her lovingly throughout like the entire scene, and you do feel bad for him. He looks like so forlorn, and like he just really wanted it to be her. And Jordan is like, trust me, man, like Nick and her, they're quirky together. They keep using this word quirky. I can't see it with you two, bro. She's really quirky, trust me. And Brendan's like, no, man, I swear, like I saw it. And Jordan's like, no, man, like trust me, like you would not be into her. She's real quirky. Megan ends up meeting up with Mike, which was the guy that she had like a connection with as well. This was the guy who, was very, sure of himself, definitely had money, and they were sort of in the same stage of life. But we've heard about him since that he is such a scammer. And she even says to him, like, as much as you were like my typical type, the vibe that you were giving off was like, if I were to go to LA for a week for work, could I trust that you wouldn't cheat on me? And he's like, ouch. And she's like, sorry, but like, that's where I was. And he's like, do you feel like you made the wrong choice? And she's like, no, right? She really had to put him in his place because somebody with an ego like that could just not handle the fact that he didn't win over Jordan. I think that really bothers him. So then we have Patrick talking to Anna. And it really seemed like in this scene that he was trying to rekindle with her. And I really feel bad for Patrick. Like, look, Patrick has made a lot of mistakes in this situation as well. But I do feel bad for him because it's very clear that this man needs therapy, that he's not secure in himself, he's not secure in his ethnicity, and that he really needs to do a lot more work on himself before he's ready to be with someone. Because he approaches Anna, like I said, giving her the impression that he's trying to rekindle. He's like, you were my number one, it would have been you. And Anna's like, well, no, it wouldn't have been me because Patrick, 2 days later, you proposed to someone else. He's like, but I wouldn't have because it would have been you if you hadn't have left. And she's like, but I did leave, right? Like, Patrick, you can't sit there and say it would have been me and I was your number one when you ended up telling someone else that you love them and proposing to them, right? And he's like, well, she was such a far off number two. And it's like, that's not an appropriate thing either. You didn't have to propose to someone, right? Like, yes, that is the idea of the show, but you could have left. If you felt like Anna was the one, whether or not she wanted to be with you or not, if you felt like she was the one, then how were you capable of proposing to someone else 2 days later, right? And I think that that's completely fair, even for Anna to say, right? So, she's like, I feel like you need to do a lot of work here. And he's like, look, I feel like you literally know me better than anyone else. And I feel like that statement right there just shows how much this man needs therapy. You knew her for a couple of days, okay? She does not know you better than anyone else just because you are both Asian. I understand that it feels that way because you feel so isolated and alone in this experiment and in Denver in general, where there aren't a lot of Asian people, but she does not know you better than anyone else because she doesn't. Like, she literally only talked to you through a wall for a few days. So, I don't really like feel for Casey here on this end, right? Like, I still feel like everything she did was like not okay. But I just feel like, he he has a lot of work to do on himself. And there was something that I wanted to mention that I didn't mention in the last batch of episodes when it came to Patrick and his ethnicity that I wanted to touch on because it was something that resonated with me in particular. So I am Jewish and I am white, and I was born Jewish and white. And growing up, it was always a problem. I don't know if I grew up around a lot of Christian people, or I guess I did, but like basically in high school, I was told by guys all the time, like, yeah, like I can't really date you because you're Jewish and I can't bring you home because like that would be weird, right? Like I can't marry someone who's Jewish. And this sort of became like a running theme in like my whole life to the point where like I started to denounce it and I started to pretend that I wasn't Jewish. I like made up an Italian last name for myself. I started hanging out with Italian people and I started like culturally appropriating that before I even knew what culturally appropriating was. And like it was so important to me to sort of like remove my Jewish heritage so that people would want to be around me, right? Like I would literally not tell people my last name because I didn't want them to know I was Jewish. And as much as it was an issue with dating, it really resonated for me what Patrick was going through, especially in the pods when he was so stressed out about telling Casey his ethnicity. I remember being in those situations too, where I would really worry about the other person's reaction, or I would lie about it and say that I wasn't, right? Just to make it a non-issue. So I just wanted to talk about that a bit because I feel like there's not a lot of cultures, I guess, who can sort of pretend that they're not something, right? I mean, obviously, you know, Judaism is a religion, not an ethnicity. So I obviously pass as like a white, blue-eyed, blonde person. So I can pass for anything. If I say I'm Christian, that would be believable too, right? But it was something that I was always doing. I was always trying to hide it because I was able to, because of the way people treated me differently because of it. So I just wanted to mention that because I just really felt like I understood and resonated with him in terms of that fear of sharing his ethnicity with Casey. And then the series of episodes ends with KB and Edmond getting in this fight. I honestly didn't really understand what it was about. It went on, like, I watched it like 3 times and I really still didn't understand something about like Edmond comparing their relationship to others, which he wasn't doing. I don't really know, but she was truly picking a fight with him. It was really out of nowhere. And that's just sort of how it ends. So I guess we'll see. I'm looking forward to the next batch, despite the fact that this season has just been like such a clusterfuck. But let's just quickly get into the interviews that were done. So Madison was on the Viall Files, and it was pretty clear that her and Joe are no longer together. I mean, like she didn't say that, but just from any interview that she's done or any sort of press, you can see that she hates that man, and understandably so. Like Nick and Natalie were asking her about his podcast that he has and how he was making fun of like the negative comments he's been getting. She sort of implied she didn't really know about that or hadn't seen that. And she said that like off camera, they did have a conversation about how he felt about her appearance. And he said something to the effect of, I normally date more petite girls. And she felt like that was something he should have said on the inside and not on the outside, and felt that um, it was that situation that sort of slowly led to her ending up having an eating disorder. And she's okay now and she's healthy now, but it was sort of hearing that that led her down that path because she had never been questioned about her body before. She had never had like body insecurities before. So it was just like really off-putting for her. And there's been a lot of weird like backlash from the internet just being like, well, how could that give you an eating disorder? And it's like, I mean, this is your partner, right? This is the person that's supposed to be like the most attracted to you. So like to find out that like maybe they're not attracted to you, that would probably give me an eating disorder as well, to be quite honest. Patrick also did an interview on the Viall Files. His main points were that he was actually turned off that Annie didn't try to fight through and stay through the experiment. Okay, I mean, I kind of disagree. Like, if she didn't, she even said, like, none of those relationships were strong enough for her to need to stay. So I'm sorry, Patrick, that you felt that the relationship was strong enough, but she didn't. He said that his relationship with Casey was more genuine than it seemed. Okay, I mean, like, we know that they're not showing us everything, and it really didn't seem like there was much of a love connection between them, which is something that she said in her interview as well, that they didn't really showcase their love story. He said that he doesn't regret telling Casey that he was Asian because he totally understands that if he was going to marry someone, that they would need to know about his family and his cultural background in order to marry him. So that wasn't so crazy. And then in Casey's interview, she actually said that she would not take back how she handled things with Patrick, just like fully still like doubling down, which is wild to me. She didn't know that the convo that she had with producers, where she said, like, you know, I know how bad this is going to look, and like, this is going to look like it's about like his appearance. She didn't know that they were going to air that. And it's like, girl, they were filming you. What do you think that they were going to do with it, right? She said that she did think that she loved him in the moment. And then when he showed up, like when they saw each other and like she was crying and everything, she was sort of like, oh, like maybe I'm making a mistake. Like I'm not sure. And she felt comforted by him because he was her person in that moment, while everyone else are like all these strangers, producers, cameramen, everything. And she said that she did have the intention to date him when they got back to Denver, but that ended pretty quickly because he wanted to get together and have a phone call immediately. And she was really emotional coming back and she needed more time. Then she heard that he went to the group event and said that it would have been Anna. So she felt like it was just sort of like, you know, he wanted to be friends, that he didn't want to be with her or something like that. I don't know. The way that she sort of flips this around is sort of weird. She said that they did see each other at like a pod event. Obviously not one that was filmed, but I think he mentioned that as well, that he did see her, and he mentioned that he was very hurt. But I still don't really understand why she's doubling down on the fact that she couldn't have just told him in that moment or told him at some point, because really to this day, she's still never like actually broken up with him, right? She did confirm that she didn't rekindle with her ex TikToker. And that guy did actually end up kind of coming out and saying that they were never in a formal relationship, which was sort of obvious. It was a situationship. They were living in two different states. It wasn't really anything. And he said that he didn't tell her that she should go on like another dating show. But in terms of the other dating shows, she said that it was Married at First Sight, which is so funny because obviously that would not be a show that would suit her as well, because it is very clear that for Casey, love is not blind. Then she ended up just making some social media posts over the past week. And like, honestly, just given how bad this whole thing went for her, I really feel like she should have just gone into hiding during all of this, but she didn't. She was making like silly, like TikToks and Instagram videos about like her cringy sex talk scene with Patrick. Then she like made a silly TikTok about like, oh, what was one of the other reality shows that was contacting you? Or what show am I on? Is this Love Island? What am I auditioning for? Then she posted one where they're showing the scene on TV where Patrick is talking to Anna and saying that Casey was his far, far number two. And then she posts this voiceover video of being like, oh boy. And then the caption says, when I think of all the tears I cried, stress I felt, and guilt I carried all this time for feeling the way I felt and for not knowing how to be honest with him, I can't say it feels great to find out that I was just a consolation prize all along. Okay, Casey, despite the fact that he said that you were his number two, it doesn't negate the fact that you two were engaged and you could have given him the decency of a conversation. You guys did end up getting engaged. So Anna or not, it doesn't really like change the situation that you guys got engaged and you could have given him a conversation. You could have been honest with him and told him that you didn't want to be with him anymore. So you should still feel guilty. And I love how she's trying to like find these little things throughout the show to sort of fit her narrative to try to turn the audience feedback back onto her side, or I don't think they were ever on her side, so to turn them onto her side. But girl, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You were wrong. You should admit you're wrong, because that's the only way I feel you're going to come out of this unscathed. That being said, I don't think she should be getting the death threats that she's getting. That's insane. People should leave her and her family alone. But if you ever do want to end up being in the reality space again, it would implore you to apologize. All right, you guys, that is the end of the episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.